To wake up, man.
Right.
Oh, that's funny. Wow. That's a good point, man.
It's random thoughts that cross your mind watching a movie, right?
But I do think, though, that, I mean, they went a really smart way with this film. I know the second one was still successful, but they wanted to go another direction. And I think also, too, is, I don't know if you got this vibe while watching the movie, but while watching this, the locations are very minimal. You're basically filming, you have a house, you have what, Kristen's house, then you have the hospital, then you have the sets for Freddy. And a cemetery. Mostly. And a bar.
And most of the scenes in the old 1428 Elm Street house, in the beginning, and Mark, I swear, I only catch this stuff because I've heard you talk about it so many times. I never would have noticed this. When she runs down the hall with that child, and then she turns a corner and she's running down another hall, like the other half of the L of this L-shaped hallway, I'm noticing what the walls look like, how barren they are, how simply placed a lot of things were just on the floor leaning against the wall, how basic this hallway is. When they get to the scene where they're going to try and rescue Joey, when he's over that hell pit in this mix of a boiler room and a descent cavern, if you will, right? It's also gritty, but when you pay attention to the details at the periphery, it's super basic, and those rock-like formations kind of degenerate to walls.
Yeah.
And, it's like you can almost see exactly where the set begins and ends. And no way a negative criticism of this. We watch this multiple times before we do this podcast, and we think about it. And Mark has given me a better eye. But it's super cheap. Super cheap. And they talked about it a lot in the making of this. How many things? Well, you go, because you saw more stuff than I did. But all the things that they wanted to do that they couldn't. All the scenes they had to cut, entire sets. Please go.
Because this is why the guy sat there and went, effects got everything. And so the effects of this movie got the budget. And that makes sense because the Freddy worm takes forever to film. The marionette Freddy, the special effects, the glass room, the hellscapes, the smoke, the various gags in this movie. Those got the money. And when they say that they got the money, it's just that process, John, is so tedious, man.
It's more the time than the materials, right?
Exactly. And you got to build it all. But then on set, you can't rush it. And some of it's stop motion. Some of it's this. Some of it's that. We got to do it once to get it right because this puppet's $50,000. So you are working at a snail's pace, which means a dialogue scene could take a day to film. But some of these bloody scenes take a week just because of the technology at the time. And that's where the real expense come in. It's just the time taken. But I think that's smart because the TV kill in this movie,
legendary. That's a major favorite. Yeah.
That's great. The marionette, that's brutal. And they show the feet. They show the goop flying out of the guy's, or the bands flying out from him. I love the hellscapes that they have. Even the nurse, they said that they had to this was a little creepy, but they're like, we had to look at hundreds of ladies and we found the perfect one. That's a little creepy. But
so I heard in an interview, part of the difficulty in choosing someone was, one, the willingness of the actress, and two, the credibility of the actress to the casting director, because she had to act while naked.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And the other thing is that, and I don't remember if I saw this in Never Sleep Again or in my Blu-rays special features, but originally she turns into Freddy, right? She tongue tethers him to the bed, Joey, and then she steps off screen. You still see her arm though, her lady arm, and you hear Freddy's voice start to laugh, and then you see Freddy. But originally they were going to have her naked,
with
topless, with the Freddy head. And they realized, this isn't going to work because, the mouth isn't going to move right. And she's going to be mouthing things or it'll just cut to Freddy's face. And it's not going to. And it also just seemed, weirdly perverse, even for how mean they wanted to make the movie. But they said that a big part of it was her. And she was interviewed at one point and she was addressing that. They said, you're going to have this many lines after we see your breasts.
Yeah,
and that even scared off some women who just wanted to make money.
Yeah, so they had to find an actress to do this. It really but I just all right. So the effects, just the way they had to vacuum seal Freddy's head and slam Jennifer's head into the TV. And like that, what the one line that Englund was able to improv. Wait, Englund added the bitch, did he not?
Welcome to prime time, bitch.
Yeah. And he added that. I just had to do. I was preparing a video for Rotten Tomatoes about Rick and Morty, and there's a character on Rick and Morty that just yells "bitch" the whole time and chases people, and he's a Freddy knockoff. It's kind of funny. I get it now.
Yeah, Scary Terry.
Yeah, Scary Terry.
I actually, I've seen that, and I really like how they addressed that. By the way,
It's funny.
Ironically, humanized the character too.
It makes me laugh, And I also liked in Never Sleep Alone when they were talking to the director Chuck Russell, who went on to make some good movies. I mean, The Mask, The Blob. He made some fun flicks.
The Blob is well, okay, one day we're potting about that.
No, absolutely, I'll do it.
Sorry, but
absolutely.
that is amazing.
I'm in. And but Chuck, they were talking to him, and they were on their 21st hour on set. And the guy said, what do you think a director is? The producer asked him this. And Chuck goes, the director is the last man standing. And I don't know if that's a great philosophy to have or a detrimental philosophy, because it seemed like a lot of the cast didn't know how to talk to Chuck, and he didn't know how to talk to them. But that same issue happened on Mad Max Fury Road. I think Chuck was so consumed with just getting the shots and getting the effects. And I mean,
Chuck Russell
on
Chuck Fury Road?
No. But so I'm sorry. On Mad Max Fury Road, they just released an oral history about the movie, and in that oral history, Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy, they had a lot of fighting on set, but they're also in Namibia for 9 months and in a car together in the heat for 9 months. Anybody would fight in that situation. But the director, George Miller, said that he was more preoccupied with the stunts and the safety of his stunt crew and the shots, and he didn't put enough thought into the actors who were basically waiting for his direction, because a lot of the movie was storyboarded, and a lot of their shots are 3 to 4 seconds. So they're in this car wondering what's going on, and George is justifiably worried about the gags that are going in the background, the polecats, all that. And so he said later on that maybe he could have spent more time with the actors, but he was just so preoccupied with the safety of all the stunts. So he said that. And Chuck Russell on this one, he had done stuff before. This guy had pressure on him. These gags that they did were pretty ahead of their time in 84. I mean, these are, 87. In 87, these gags are pretty advanced. And so I bet you his brain every day, all day was just getting the gags done. Just getting it done right. And I guess that's the stress he felt. But that's pretty crazy, man, that his mindset on this movie was, I'm the last man standing.
Yeah, it seems like an interesting admixture, and I'm not going to call it 50-50 or say what the proportions are, of maybe a little embittered martyrdom with dedication.
Yeah, there it is.
You started out dedicated, and as this stressful filming progressed, if you are the last man standing periodically, it's like people, even it could be a study group working on a class project. If you're the last one working and or the first one there, sometimes you come to resent the people who don't put as much into it. Or you simply feel like you're the glue that keeps this together.
Yeah.
And when you don't have a lot of experience, I can readily see that becoming that, even if you don't continue to think that later in your own personal developmental timeline, it's tough.
It's interesting. I can't speak for any of these films because obviously I didn't work on this in 87 or Mad Max Fury Road in Namibia. You've been there, by the way. You saw what they filmed. But I did appreciate when I was working on film sets. So there'd be directors who show up late and then they want to get out early and they just leave. But then you get some directors who are the first ones there and then they're the last ones out. And so even if they're trying to figure things out, at least they're there trying to be the last man standing, maybe because of their inexperience, he or she. But when this first AD, or I worked with the first AD, she was awesome. She was the first one in, last one out, and she reunited the crew no matter who the director was. So I guess it's good that Chuck Russell had this embittered martyrdom to be the last one. I like that word. I can see you being like that. But listen, all this hard work that they did, it paid off. I mean, Kincaid's in every top 10 list of favorite characters. Taryn's in every top 10 list. Kristen, people love Patricia Arquette in this movie. I mean, people dig, and Nancy, I liked Heather. You know what's interesting too is the three best. According to IMDb and to the Tomato Meter, the three best are Nightmare on Elm Street, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, and what's the last one? The New Nightmare. Wes Craven's The New Nightmare.
Oh yeah, that was like 97, I think, right?
And
or 94.
94? Yeah. And then Langenkamp and Saxon are in all three of those. And then the Halloweens with the highest ratings are Halloween H2O, and the latest Halloween. We're just talking about Tomato Meter and IMDb averages. And those all have Jamie Lee Curtis. So it's interesting how Heather and Jamie, or, their characters, Laurie Strode and Nancy Thompson, those are the most popular. But I like her character in this, too. She's just there to help, which I dig. I mean, she's there to, I don't know. It's a good, yeah, it's a weird movie, man. I don't know.
So I'd like to get into some of the visuals.
Yeah, let's do it.
Like, some of my favorite visuals pertain specifically to Philip. Because I loved, and let me tell you, I have a problem with needles and cuts. And I don't mean any cut, like a sword cut, but like little cuts. And so even though it wasn't a little cut, it was like indicative of one. When Freddy sliced his wrists and his legs, and you see how far up his leg goes, right? It's almost like if you saw like surgery on the Learning Channel about how high up your thigh they go to get an artery for a bypass surgery, right? Like it's way up his leg. And then when he lifts him up and you see him elevated and you see those bloody tendon/artery messes pulling at his feet and and the way he held his wrist was, I mean, it was wonderful. You could see he was getting tugged and it looked uncomfortable. But I was wincing. I have such a problem with those scenes, but I don't take my eyes off. But that and the claymation, I love claymation all the time, especially in these old horror movies. And so I loved that. And what was really cool, you mentioned New Nightmare a moment ago, Mark, is that in this movie there are two scenes where claws come out of hand analogs. Just like Freddy's hand had claws in New Nightmare. There was the sink in the beginning where the one sink hand grabbed her hand and the other sink hand grew claws.
Oh, that was so cool.
Right, but it's just like a sink hand, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, cool. Maybe that's his glove. But then later when it's Freddy, the clay puppet, he drops and through his fingertips emerge the claws. There's no semblance whatsoever of a glove. It's just his hand grew claws.
That's so cool.
And so in two cases in this movie, or one if you want to be really critical about it, we see this come up, how cool that would be. And I still remember Wes Craven interviews from ages ago about how he thought it would be so interesting and different if the claw was just a part of him now.
Yeah. Oh, man, I dug it. I love, that sink scene was cool, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. And you know what was cool? When the hand started to – the first hand that grabs her hand, the faucet handle that grabs her when she grabs it and just clutches its hand. As she tries to lift her hand and it comes up and you see kind of like whatever – it looks like some kind of piping, if you will. But why would there be that to a faucet? But as you go deeper, you see there's two strands of this piping. And then they kind of constrict – at what would be an elbow joint. So it's like the two bones of an arm bone. You only see it for a second. But they whoever put these visuals together, they weren't just doing it to do it. They cared and thought about what it looked like. And that's really cool. They gave it anatomy.
Do you want to hear something cool about the guys who worked? So Greg Cannon, Cammon, Cannon, he did a lot of the special effects makeup on this. But he went on to work on The Lost Boys, right? And then he did Cyborg, which is amazing. He did Dick Tracy, Exorcist 3. He would move on to like Highlander movies, but then just as we keep going, Alien 3, Batman Returns. He did Bram Stoker's Dracula. He went on to that.
What did you do there?
Let's see.
He was just a part of the general,
he did special makeup effects. So special makeup effects. So whenever there's a cut or a bleed or prosthetics, he would come put those on. Then he went and did The Mask, which he worked with the director again of this. Yeah, Jim Carrey, The Mask. He did Mrs. Doubtfire. Then he went and did, Titanic. He did Old Rose on that. Then he moved on to Blade, Idle Hands. And then he did Blessed Child, which the same director did from this one, too. Man, he worked with him a lot. That's cool. The same crew. And then Bulletproof Monk, which I love.
Wait, Chuck Russell did Bless the Child?
Yeah.
I gotta see that again now.
And then he went and did Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. And this guy, right, he has 4 Academy Award wins. He did This dude did The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. He did
Four
Watchmen.
wins?
Yeah, he has 4 Academy Award. He's won 4 Oscars from this.